All right, so I first want to thank everybody who started and runs this Foresight thing, because about 10, 15 years ago, I went to a conference and I decided to go back to school. Finished my bachelor's last year and I'm doing PhD program in biomolecular engineering now. I was doing like software and electronics for like Fortune 500s and startups before. So it's been really inspiring, and I just wanted to say thank you. So what we want is like a 3D printer that you can control from a computer that is kind of easy enough to use. And what we have is we have the computer, and we have like this molecular machinery that is self-replicating and scales and can make proteins and very precise atomic devices. And what's missing is like the stuff in between. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So quick review, we have the central dogma of biology. So we have genetic material, what you inherit from your parents, who inherited it from like whatever the first organism ever, ultimately. That gets translated all the time into RNA, which then gets translated. So the RNA is a temporary kind of message carrier that we usually say, but it has more functions, and we get into that. And then that goes through the ribosome and it makes a protein. So that's kind of how the biology usually works. Now, RNA has interesting side effects. There's secondary structures in the RNA. This is a tRNA, but essentially it finds the lowest energy state, and based on the sequence that you put in, it shapes into a specific shape. And those shapes have function as well. So they have enzymatic function, but also they can work as logic gates. So there are logic gates that depend on the presence and absence of chemicals, and then can make or not make other chemicals. And a number of these gates exist, and they have been somewhat studied. And so we can make logic, and the way it works essentially, when this binds, or when this is present, the lowest energy state of the system changes, and then this end bit here may disappear and fold up against itself, and then it's no longer available for the ribosome to do a protein expression. So the ribosome is essentially the machinery that takes the RNA and makes the protein, and it has a complicated like initiation step, and if the initiation step is not working, then it's not making the protein. So it's kind of like, it's a sensitive thing, and we figured out a way to mess with it with light. So there's a nice mechanism. It has millisecond time steps. So if you shine a light, it stops the expression of the thing if you have the right sequence set up. And so that's been shown. We can do that. For example, here's kind of like, oh, I messed up, huh? Here's kind of like an example. This is a protein that changes shape when the light shines. So this is when the light is on, and this is when the light is off, I think. So you see it changes shape. And so when it's in one state, RNA can wind around it and bind to the surface of the protein, and is not available otherwise in the system. And when it's in this state, it doesn't fit, and then it's available in the system. So when the light is on, it does one thing. When the light is off, it does the other thing. So that's kind of how it works underneath. And there's all kinds of explanations to it. But so we have a lot of these molecules, actually. A number of those exist. There's a database. It's about 100, I think, now. And they all work on different colors and all that, and it's great, right? The field is exploding. There's 1,200 papers, but really, there's only a few different colors. These evolved eons ago, and there's one at 450 nanometers, and like it has evolved like long time ago, and it has kind of gone into different organisms, taken on different functions, but the light sensor is still at 450 nanometers. So if we want to address many things, we want to control thousands of building blocks and turn them on and off. That's not going to work, because it's not right. And even if we had them, we're working with protein machine learning and protein design tools. We're working on shifting these wavelengths around. Even if we had them, there's a spectral breadth. You can only be so narrow, so you can only address so many things at once. So it's not going to be enough. So what we're going to do is we're going to steal something from electronics engineering. We're going to make a shift register. The shift register has two inputs, and then you use time to store things over time. So here, when the ball is green, it's going to make the protein, and when the ball is gray, it's not going to make that protein. So in this case, we can encode for 4 proteins. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through a little example here. When the red light comes on, the first thing there, A, is looking at the green light, and it's either becoming green because the light is green, or it's not. D is looking at C and becomes whatever that is. C is looking at B and becomes whatever that is. B is looking at A and comes whatever that. And that happens just when the light turns on in an instant. So, and I'm going to explain how this works later. So we start with this. The green light is on, the red light come on. Now the first circle is green, and we do it again. This time only the red light comes on, so the first circle is gray now, but the second circle is green because it's moved over there. So the green light is on, the red light comes on, now there's a green ball there, and this is the first green light that went on at the beginning. So, and now this is kind of the final state. So I'm going to do it again, just for, so we start like this. It's dark, red light comes on, stores it, shifts it over, shifts it over, shifts it over. And this is our final state. So we make A, we make B, and we make D, and we don't make C. So we store that, and that's the mode. And there's a proposed RNA structure that does this, where we have a ripple of clock conformation changes that goes this way, which allows this guy to steal information from here, and this guy steals information from that guy. And at the very front, you set the bit that you put into the first position. And there's an optical readout if we want to. Anyway, so that's the proposal here. And so what it allows us to do is control the RNA concentration, which allows us to control the ribosome and other things. So we can make protein A first. We set the shift register to enable protein A generation. And then we make B, and then it self-assembles because they fit. And then we make C, and then C assembles here. And then we make D. Now D fits in the same kind of slot here, but because C has already been there, D can only fit in the slot that's given by C. And there is protection and deprotection things that we can also do. And then we can make another one E, and that kind of fits in the open slot. But the other thing we can do, we can have a little guide RNA that's present or not present that makes E stick to D, and F cannot go in there because this guide kind of keeps it out. So we can have a little programmable aptamer kind of linker that enables or disables the thing. So now that's essentially the blinking light step that allows us to control the inside of the bacteria that we've modified to contain our tool chain. And another cool thing that we can do if we control RNA bits is we can assume this is a protein. So it has this shape like this, right? Like this. And there's a long piece of RNA we've enabled in the solution. So it hangs on here and it puts it in this shape. If we take that piece of RNA out of solution and put a shorter one in there, it is physically constrained to go like that. So we have a motor arm that we can control in multiple steps. And because, lots of permutations are possible here, lots of motion is possible in a molecule, in a protein, we can fix and release multiple things. We can actually have many degrees of freedom that we can control with the digital thing. And I'm done. Any questions?
Oh, damn. Okay, that was precise. Thank you. Okay,
yes.
We're going to have time for one, and then we do the rest in breakouts.
Are you proposing to make it an E. coli?
Yeah, probably. Yeast might be nice, but E. coli is probably cheaper and faster. So we want fast development cycle times, I think.
So how do you deal with stoichiometry of the proteins? Because you sequentially can produce them, but as soon as you have not one-to-one ratio, they will start contaminating each other.
It's over time, I guess. It's the yield is a big problem, and I have no idea what the yield is going to be. And if we have like 80% precision, it's not enough. If we have 90% precision, it's not enough. It's going to be pretty high.
Like DNA synthesis that is under very controlled conditions only can get you 99.8
Yeah, that'll be enough for starters, I think. We can do
for single step,
with that, maybe.
and for like 100 nucleotides, it's about 70%. For this, I expect it's going to be zero at 5%.
We're using the bacteria to do the DNA and RNA generation for us, right?
But how do you get rid of excess of each component on each stage?
Of the proteins that are made?
Yeah.
Don't know.
Because protein 3 gonna stick to protein 2.
Right. I figure I let the cellular mechanism clean it up.
No comments.
Right. Thank you so much.
It's a good question, though. Thank you.
Thanks.